Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. It has been a little while since I've been making videos. I've been doing so many other things in the background, but for one last time before the end of this Jubilee year, we have to get our best friend back on. It is the one and only Xavier Ayral. Great to have you back, mon ami. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing fine, thank you, and so happy that you honored me being your last 2025 guest in your marvelous show. Thank you, Mark. How are you, mon ami?
All the better for seeing you. I know we've had a good chat beforehand, but we need to hit that record button as always, don't we? To get some stuff covered. And I know you're busy with your own channel, or Crooks Ave Media, and many other channels that you're popping up on. But it's always good to get back to the originals, isn't it?
Oh yes, this yours is unquestionably one of my very favorite, and you have become one of my best friends.
Yeah, well, please God, I really do hope we get to meet in person. But the way the world's going right now, I'm either flying quicker to America or we're both flying quicker to Brittany. I don't know. But we'll cover that maybe in a few other things shortly. The reason I've asked you back on, and for everyone else also, I'm sure many people are noticing the increase in hostilities breaking out with Europe and Russia, but also the boldness that we're seeing on our news channels for the past month with all the protests surrounding Christmas markets in Germany or in Belgium or other places. Some have even been cancelled because of security concerns. Even one in the UK has been cancelled. Sheffield, I was told. And the thing is, as well, though, is I'm getting more and more of a sense that America's ready to step back away from Europe as Europe is going further and further into talks with war with Russia. And again, the past 7 or 8 days, every day, the head of the army of the UK, the Sea Admiral, or whoever, and then certain ministers of parliament are all speaking about how close we actually are. Conscription's being mentioned. There's a Russian warship off the north of Scotland being antagonistic, and then even Putin himself giving a clear message now that they're ready for war. They never wanted it, they still don't want war with Europe, but they're ready if it starts. And his only concern is if it does happen, there'll be no one left in Europe to negotiate with. Now, you and I have
Mhm.
covered now for at least, what, 2 years, all this stuff, and it's still unfolding word by word to the letter as described, especially from the likes of Marie Julie Jehani and others. And the particular reason I was wanting to cover it to bring sense of what we're seeing before our very eyes just now, this past couple of weeks especially, is she did right as you took it from in your book, it was to do with how America won't come to the aid of Europe when it goes into war. Can you tell our viewers a little bit more about how that would be, what she wrote about it, and how we're actually seeing that now?
Quite. Um, you you hit the nail on the head, as the Americans say. Marie Julie did indeed say that there will be a third world war. And in this Third World War, she clearly stated that the Americans will not come to her rescue, not this time. And indeed, today, living in the United States on the eastern coast, although I remain a French citizen and I have not taken double nationality, French 100% I am, French 100% I remain. Um, I can assure you, since I live here and I live the American news on a daily basis, Donald Trump, if he sees his European allies attack first, even in a preventive attack of sorts, and get bombed shortly thereafter by the Russians, please do understand this, and I'm addressing myself to your viewers. Donald Trump will not put in jeopardy the safety of the United States, or he will not risk a third world conflict that will see the United States bombed with thermonuclear weapons for either England or for France or for any other European ally on the continent if the Europeans are at fault and launch the first attack, preventive or not, against Russia. Clearly. This is from somebody who lives in the United States. And I know for a fact what I'm telling you is exact. Donald Trump has left no room for interpretation as far as what his intentions are regarding Europe. What's more, recently, Donald Trump stated that the European Union is right now falling into an abyss where it is doomed to lose its own identity due to the fact that it's opened completely and unrestrictively its borders, particularly to immigrants of different cultures, different nations, different beliefs, different creeds, and that accordingly um, the European nations are therefore losing themselves, and he will not place in jeopardy the United States, which is actually also declaring war against illegal immigrations. He will not put his country or countrymen in peril for a continent of consortium of nations, of European nations, who have gone astray, who have lost themselves, who have lost sight of their own national interest. Those are the words of Donald Trump.
Yeah, because I think when we first spoke and we covered a little bit of this about how that would be in the future, but even 2 years ago, I'm not sure if we could have seen it clearly as how that would come about. But again, this is why we do the updates, is because we're seeing it now. It's just another movement fulfilling what we know is coming. We might not always know how it's going to come, but 2 years later, it's starting to take shape. It's starting to be more revealed before our eyes. And yeah, I think it's exactly what's going to be the case as long as Donald Trump remains president. Um, but up since the Ukraine conflict began, it was always seen that Russia had to, it was forced into it. I mean, the BBC and the Americans, the British won't make it across that way, but they had to get rid of Russia Today from all their channels and broadcasts. So I haven't been able to watch the Russia Today news since they invaded Ukraine. It's been taken off UK streaming on the UK airwaves. So we don't get to hear the other side of it. But every time I hear something coming from Putin, I get where he's coming from. I understand why he had to do the war. But he makes it clear in the past week. He says, this isn't, Ukraine is not a full blown out war with Russia. This is a surgical precision of what we are doing to achieve our targets and our goals. We've never wanted war, but yeah, they've been forced into it because of the expansion of NATO and everything else that's been happening. And finally, after trying and trying to negotiate, they had to do it. So they've been forced into this proxy war, which Europe wants to continue to happen. But when he's now saying something different, he's now saying we're ready. This is it. The European leaders are hell bent on keeping this war going. They're pushing for war, and we're trying to push for peace. And as Trump would say, peace through strength. Russia's shown that strength, that surgical precision, and they haven't even warmed up with their full military arsenal or military personnel yet after all this time. But now he's starting to change the rhetoric. We're ready. We don't want it. You just keep pushing it, and beware. We're ready. We won't start it, but we'll finish it. And yeah, he literally says the only concern he has, if we go to war with Europe, there will be no one left to negotiate with. That's the clear threat, isn't it?
Quite so. There was a talk here in the United States when Putin came to Anchorage. You'll remember in Alaska a couple of months ago. Donald Trump and Putin had a very, very long conversation. What is being said here in the States is this: Putin explained clearly the true situation that took place between Ukraine and Russia since not 2022 when the war began in Ukraine, but since 2014 when there was the famous coup, you'll remember, in Kiev, that immediately took out a president who was democratically elected by the people of Ukraine. He was taken illegally out. And this operation, according to what they said here in ABC, reportedly was financed by the CIA.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yes. And what's more, in addition to that, There was, of course, the original agreements in 1988, 1989, where George Bush Sr. did agree, even on writing, to the Kremlin, that if indeed the Russians would break down the Berlin Wall, which it did, I think it was in November of 1989, if memory serves, and the Russians would withdraw their troops and their nuclear arsenals behind or east of the Ural mountains, NATO took the formal engagement never to step 1 inch square west from the NATO member nations, and would
East.
not step foot exactly would not step foot eastward on the nations of the what used to be the Warsaw Pact countries.
Ah,
Completely violated all that. They moved in Eastern Germany, then in Poland. Czechoslovakia broke down between the Czech Republic, and the country of Slovakia. They moved in Hungary. They moved in Romania. They moved in Bulgaria. They
Latvia,
moved in
Latvia.
all the way. Then recently, the Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, etc., Lithuania, all those nations that used to be under Russian control now are under NATO and they have nuclear bases. Now, you will remember the reasons for the Cuban Missile Crisis in the early 1960s. The reasons why this major situation took place was because the Russians moved troops and nuclear weapons in Cuba less than 100 kilometers from Northern American territory. In this instance, the Russians, and I'm not making myself the devil's advocate, I am not Putinists, no, but sometimes some of these facts bother me, being a Frenchman. I do not like to admit these things. It bothers me immensely. But we are forced to recognize the facts that what the Americans, with the support of all of NATO and its allies, by blockading Cuba, by threatening to take over the country, and being on the edge of World War III, the Russians are doing likewise with Ukraine. They will not tolerate that the Americans or the NATO members install military and possibly nuclear bases less than 100 kilometers from Moscow. How can we not understand that when we defended the same position only 50 years ago, 60 years ago, with the Cuban Missile Crisis? That's number one. Number two, in 2014, as I mentioned, there was an internationally illegal coup organized in Kiev. Now, you must understand the politics that took place in these times. There were the nationalists, the Ukrainian that wanted to totally step away from Russian influence, the nationalists which just lost democratically the presidential elections, and then there were those who wanted to remain in a state of neutrality, very much like Austria in the 1950s and the 1960s. And then there were the Republicans of Luhansk, the four republics that wanted independence from Ukraine because the majority of the population were Russians. So, what did the Ukrainian nationalists do? They began to take those political leaders in Ukraine, in not Sebastopol, but just north of the Crimean territory. They used to put tires around them, cover them with gasoline, and set them afire. They used to massacre all the pro-Russians politicians who wanted to have those four uh, territories independent, not under Russian boot, but totally independence, auto-determination. Then let's not forget that what President François Hollande openly admitted on French television, that on the Minsk Accord, on the Normandy format that took place between himself, Angela Merkel, and Vladimir Putin and Vladimir Zelensky, the President François Hollande admitted on French television. I saw the show. He said truly the purpose of this Minsk meeting was to gain time, to make Putin feel at ease, and for us Europeans to give a chance to our ally Ukraine to rearm to the teeth. And that's exactly what they did. So once again, they fooled Putin, who just wanted insurance that there would be referendums and democratic elections on those four regions of the Donbass. And he realized when it was already too late that it could not be done, and the Ukrainians already were armed to the teeth. There was even an aircraft carrier, helicopter carrier, French, that had been sold to Russia. François Hollande decided when he realized that Putin found and finally realized what had been done to him and began to be more aggressive, he decided, although it was already paid, not to deliver this aircraft carrier to Russia. He reimbursed the Russians, but it was all a manipulation. Vladimir Putin, the only thing he wanted is to make certain that Russia's security would not be put in jeopardy by having the NATO nations move in at less than 100 kilometers from Moscow.
Mm-hmm.
How could
Makes
we
sense.
blame him for that when we did the same thing 60 years ago in Cuba with the Cuban Missile Crisis? So, again, I'm not justifying the unjustifiable. Putin fell into a trap, I believe, when he launched his armored brigades in Ukraine on February the 24th, 2022. If he should not have done it, there was another way to do it. There were other means he should have adopted, but he did. And but I think we've reached a point of saturation. And right now, the English, the French, the European nations have all had a couple of exceptions, such as the Slovak Republic, and the Czech Republic and Hungary,
Mm.
who are totally in opposition to send boots on the ground in Ukraine. The Europeans are doing everything they can to throw oil in a fire, which is growing and growing and growing. And I'm forced to ask all those who are in favor to pursue this course of action, what's the objective? Because there is one thing the Russians do not know to do. They do not know how to lose the war. And Putin was very clear. There was a French journalist a couple of months ago who asked him, Mr. President, will you really use your nuclear arsenal if indeed you're being attacked on your home front lines? And he answered, without even a second thought, yes, till the very last one, because I cannot, even if it means assured mutual destruction, because I cannot imagine the world without a Russia.
Yeah.
This is grave. And as you said, behind the TV camera, when you and I were speaking in private, no? Putin stated recently, a few days ago, that he doesn't want war with the European Union or with NATO. But if indeed the Europeans want war, he is ready, and there won't be many people left for negotiating peace afterwards. The message is clear. If there is war with the European forces, Russia will use its nuclear arsenal. And then those in London or in Paris who would have said, we must go, it's a question of principle, will they find their consolation, Mark, in your opinion, on a crater where used to be London or Paris, which is now a crater filled with radioactive ashes? Will they find the consolation then? I'm forced to wonder.
Mm. Because again, even Alois Illmeyer did prophesy about how these nuclear ones would go off in the waters of the North Sea, and how England would get the water over it. I mean, they're already showing that in Russian TV of like if they had to detonate in certain areas of the waters with their Poseidon nuclear arsenal. But then there was a Ukrainian mystic, Joseph Terrell, is it? I forget.
Really?
I remember seeing him in that old video many years ago, the Marian apparitions of the 20th century. He was in that one. But someone recently told me that that man, Joseph, met John Paul II years ago and
Mm-hmm.
told him that with the waters coming over England, Birmingham City would be the south of England. Birmingham is in the middle of England right now, and it's 2 hours drive south to London and a few hours further down to Devon and Cornwall on the west southwest coast. So that's a lot. And again, that's northern France as well, if you think of the English Channel. But it's saying that, and this is not a doom and gloom episode. I know people will be wondering what's this happening. Because I think as much as we're getting ready for a happy and holy Christmas, which is a very much focus for me this year, amidst all the chaos, that's where it goes back to. That's where you'll find your consolation, is that unity with the Lord and remembering why He came into this world. So Christmas Eve Mass for me is, I've been waiting for it all year. I'm going to go to a really high, traditional high Mass with all the smells and bells and the choirs and just get my heart into it, you know. Who knows if we'll see a Christmas next year? Because I honestly believe, Xavier, that I'm sensing more and more with so many prophetic things having to happen in this Jubilee year. Now we're approaching the end of it. Why all of a sudden the change in rhetoric, the change in stance with Russia, with Putin? And right now there's apparently some warship of Russia off the north of Scotland. And when the RAF, the Royal Air Force, is going up to go over because of where it's coming into the waters, this Russian ship is actually locking on with lasers to them, which is a new thing. So it just shows you the provocation and the testing is happening more and more right now. And this has brought around a lot of the United Kingdom military chiefs to address the nation. We've seen it coming up on the news reports all week. It wasn't there a month ago or 2 months ago. It's just been the last 8 to 10 days that I've started noticing a continuous daily thing where they're saying we're between peace and war right now. We have to prepare like their grandfathers did before the Great War. We're ready to go, and all this talk as well. And then you hear that from Putin. But it's all with Europe, and I tell you what, I'm like, America ain't coming to help. Because again, it's prophecy. And then there's Venezuela, that's ready to kick off with America. And I don't know a great deal about it, maybe you know more, but servant of God, Maria Esperanza, Our Lady told her, apparently, that this is where the great economic collapse will start, is in Venezuela. So you've got all that ready to go. You've got Russia and Kiev, which are part and parcel to the final solution of Fatima, which Father Malachi Martin told us about. And then you've got the mass immigration, which is completely now, it's done. Europe's done. You can see it in England as well. It's never going to change within a generation. It's done. But yeah, so it's just a case of saying, when's it going to kick off? And I really believe something next year. This Jubilee year has been a real time of grace and prophecy. Your numbered popes are done. You've got the two popes' prophecy fulfilled. And now this Leo the 13th to Leo the 14th, it's the bookend of the whole story of all Fatima, Garabandal, Marie Julie, everything in between. And so happens his Latin name is, you can change it to Petrus Romanus, so you can't make that up. I know I'm sounding a bit repetitive from my previous videos, but nothing takes it away. I can't find things to take it away, like dispute it or anything like that. It's just there. And is it a coincidence again with all that in this Jubilee year that Our Lady's request when she went back to Lucia at Fatima in 1925, wanting the first 5 Saturday devotion for the conversion of Russia, 2025, 100 years later, we just had December there, the first week in December, that first Saturday devotion. That's us. This very month has concluded the 100th anniversary since 1925 to now. That's the century done as well in terms of asking for that conversion. And now we're getting Putin a week later changing this rhetoric with everything else happening. What's your thoughts on the fact of the timing? Because I do think, I don't know what's going to happen or when, but I think it's almost, you know how, like, I know it's been described from St. Joseph to the Holy Spirit or the Church with 2 Thessalonians about the restrainer. When he's taken away, the devil will get his time. I just kind of sense it's something like that, where this Jubilee year has been flooding out so many graces. Why is it now that So more people are back in the Catholic Church than an Anglican Church since the Reformation. The biggest intake in many countries, including France, with baptism conversions. Why is it this year? Why is it that amongst them all it's young men are the biggest majority coming back? I read in France at Easter 200 military officers baptised. You know, these are things we're not hearing above the surface. This is God under the surface. But again, the abundance of grace is poured out in this Jubilee year with so many prophetic times and things that are happening. I think this is the 100-year request of the first Saturday devotion, December 2025, 100 years done. This formal closure of the Jubilee year will be January 6th at the Epiphany. And I think after that, that's it, no more restraining. I don't know if I'm not meaning it's the one for Thessalonians. I mean, there's a restraining because of the floods of graces. Now, this was a real last chance to get as much as you can while you can, because now it's ready to kick off, and I think it'll be any time after January 6th. What about you?
I agree with you. I think that the year 2026 will be page one of a new chapter in our history. As for England is concerned, I joke a great deal with the English. In my channel, I've been to your country many, many times since I was a very young man. I love England. I do not forget the unforgettable. During our revolution, your country was the refuge of many royalists who escaped the horrors of the French Revolution. World War II, I do not forget either that General de Gaulle was welcomed there, and it was the place of birth of the Free French Army that participated to the liberation of Europe in 1944 and 45. I think that your estimation and assessment for next year, first year after the Jubilee year, is absolutely correct. I do believe that even maybe before the end of the festivities, but I think that indeed in 2026 it will be page one, and I think I expect the situation in your country to go from bad to worse. You have a tremendous blessing in your country, which the entire world has witnessed, probably with awe, and that's the nationalism, the patriotism. A nation like yours that has been able to gather over 3 million patriots to say in one single word, enough, with the invasion, the cultural invasion of people now who claim your land as theirs, no? Your society as theirs is an example. Is an example for the rest of those Europeans who, being so frightful, so frightened rather, to appear neo-fascist, far right, have lost the idea or the remembrance of who they are, what their parents, what their fathers and theirs before them have done to give them as a patrimony of your nation, of your country, of your culture. I think that this Second World War, Mark, and I'd be very interested to know if you concur with me, has left terrible marks on the conscience of generations who have never even lived even close to these times, the times of World War II, in what regards the continental Europeans, not just the French, but every nation in Europe that has been conquered by the Nazis. The notion of collaborating, of collaborations, the neo-Nazis during the occupations, that happened in Belgium, in Norway, in Denmark, in Holland, in Italy, in all the European countries that have seen or heard the rhythm of the German boots of the Wehrmacht soldiers patrolling their capitals. France was no exception. So everyone is so afraid to appear neo-fascist, neo-Nazi, even when neither they nor their fathers, nor, and in some instances, even their grandfathers have not lived those times, that they go to the extreme other side of the political spectrum, wanting to appear politically correct. And in the process of doing so, they're totally losing themselves. We are going fast towards a new avenue, which is, first and foremost, a war, of course, with Russia. You'd have to be blind today not to see that. but also with a war, with an internal war inside our own borders. And that includes England. That definitely includes France. No. The Spaniards, I don't know if you heard that song. The Spaniards this year have come up with a Christmas song that is extraordinarily popular. It's viral. It's called Feliz Navidad, mi España, which means Happy Merry Christmas, my Spain. And it's political. It says, today, when December comes, my heart used to warm up. And now, when we go to what used to be known as Christmas markets, we see that the Christmas markets are known as winter markets because we do not want to offend the newcomers. And that for many years in Europe, it's been like Anne Castle trying to accommodate those newcomers who hate you and who hate me. That's those are the lyrics of the song, and all this with the Spanish guitar, very rhythmic. Is the music, the melody is lovely, but it is guilty of giving some words that reflect to perfection the truth of what we're living. The Spaniards are up to here. The English, you've demonstrated clearly, are up to here. The French, we're getting there because really enough is enough. We're getting murders. We're getting the communists and the socialists making an alliance with the Islamists. The Germans also, it's clearly shown that the present government is going nowhere and fast. And of course, we have we have the glory and the zenith of ridicule and stupidity personalized through Emmanuel Macron, who has such issues in France. His popularity tolls do not go beyond 20% in France. It's not been so bad for a French president since François Hollande. And this man still smiling, still having a complex of superiority and self-assurance, since he knows he cannot recover the national debt. He knows the economy is going down very quickly because of Mercosur, since he knows that the population now with the French agriculturers is totally against them. He is in a major jam. His only way of exit with the chin high is by telling all the Frenchmen, join me, we have a common enemy. Putin is the new Adolf Hitler.
Yep.
Which is rubbish. No, Starmer, your prime minister, has been humiliated by Donald Trump. When he went, I think, to Egypt, Donald Trump has you. I felt sad for the man because, as I said, I joke a lot about the English, but I do not forget what England has done for the true Frenchmen, like the true Frenchmen of my family. Remember, I have an uncle who joined the Free French Army under de Gaulle on June the 19th, 1940, one day after the famous call of de Gaulle from the BBC. I will not forget that, neither will the next generations in my family. But I felt bad for England, because this man, this prime minister of yours, it was not just him who got ridiculed by Donald Trump, an alleged lie. It was all of your nation, all of the United Kingdom. And I didn't think that was fair. So as you said, I think this year, it's going to be a time when we will all be called to keep a cool head, to look forward, to look straight, and to do our best to maintain head above water. But I will tell you honestly, I'm very pessimistic. I think the Europeans will probably do an unrepairable mistake that will lead to a catastrophe. And when it does, I assure you, and this is a person who has lived here now for the past 40 years of his life. I assure you, and I hope your viewers understand this clearly, Donald Trump will not put the United States in peril for the United Kingdom, nor for any country in the European continent, because he openly stated it recently on ABC and CBS News that he thinks that Europe is going downwards, is losing its identity, it's no longer itself.
Yeah.
That's the best answer I can give you, mon ami.
Well, he did say in United Nations a couple of months ago, literally, your countries are going to hell. Yeah, that's what he says. And
Yeah.
you know what? I think we've had such a pacifist society in the making. Everything happening now, everything happening over the last 30 years, it's all deliberate and it's orchestrated for whatever world elite's global goals are. Everything, the division, the anger, the nationalism, everything. They know how to go about it, and people just have to be careful what the traps are. But when you get one standing up like him and giving it straight, the people like it. My job consists of me going into maybe 5, 6, 7 houses per day, speaking to people in the comfort and security of their own house, their own home. And when it comes to chatting all about this, everyone's saying the same. And I mean everyone. No one's saying any different. They're so tired and fed up with the nonsense that's going on, the death of the culture, the lies of the politicians. And I tell you one thing, and I really believe it, if there had to be a mass non-compliance of people ready to stand up and fight for their country, this would be it. I think that's why they need AI bots and drones and all sorts coming in, because see all the generation that are under 30 years of age especially, yes, there'll be some that are destined to be in the military, but most of them just want to binge watch Netflix, play their Xboxes, and there's no way they're getting out their mummy's house to go and fight in a war because of Keir Starmer or President Macron. And you know what? It's the one and only time I cannot blame them for being so selfish. Because I tell you
Agree.
another thing, I'll do a Muhammad Ali. I ain't going to no war for some politician. It's true, especially the likes of those, and especially when I can see the truth behind it. And but the only time, maybe, like I'm sure it is for yourself, if the French king comes back, that'll be the worthy cause, because we've got such a pacifist society here in the West over the last 30 years, which has allowed the radicalisation of change to come in through immigration and everything else, and we're too afraid to say anything, political correctness, and all the rest of it. I mean, I went to the musical theatre last night, which is the second time ever, and I had to move in the cubicle at the gentleman's toilet because of sanitary boxes in the gents' toilet. For women, it's for women. Oh, well, oh, this is the world we live in, but you can't say nothing, you'll be offended. But then it's, yeah, we have to go to war because of all this nonsense. Never going to happen. That's why they need AI and things like that. But I see it going that way because it's a selfish, indifferent society that just keeps taking it and taking it and taking it. And yeah, you get the likes of Tommy Robinson here in the UK or Nigel Farage shouting out. Tommy Robinson's now speaking about finding Christ in his faith. Let's hope it's not political or anything else, but it's sincere and genuine. But how, when he brings a mass carol service to celebrate Christmas, Christianity, the UK, the nationalism, but then the church is saying this is not what it's for, this is not Christianity, Christianity's for everyone. This is where we've spoke a lot about society, but this is where the church comes in, and the church has played a role in all this nonsense, the pacifist ways, and not to offend, don't rock the boat, and men especially are crying out for heroic leaders in the church, in society, in government, and they're not getting it. And that's why the likes of Tommy Robinson might be popping up where God would use him, to be sincere. Because I don't think your King of England coming back any more than St. Paul himself would be holding or mixing his words or actions for doing what has to be done, mission for Christ. And I wish the church, the clergy, would finally make a stance. Because do you know what happened actually a couple of weeks ago, I believe, in Northern Ireland, which comes under the United Kingdom? I need to fact check it more, but basically the UK Supreme Court ruled that teaching Christianity in the schools was against human rights or something. But now we're hearing echoes of it coming in through the Green Party at Scotland, and it's starting to go the way. But the bishops have made a bit of a blunt statement against it. So the Scottish bishops have got a strong voice, and I know a few of them will. So I'm quite safe with them. But yeah, you're starting to see this creeping in. But at the same time, there's textbooks for learning Islam and showing them how to do their prayers. All these different kids in Ireland and England, and it's like the balance is happening. And if you hear any Muslim cleric talking up sincerely, that's why they go to the left. So your Keir Starmers and the Labour, I mean, the laws that they're passing in for pro-Islam and against Christianity, it's a deliberate change to rid Christianity out in the remaining few years, which goes back to George Orwell's 1984. It's all, but we're talking prophecy, and yep, it's all fitting in for sure. Sorry to rant on with that, Xavier. I do have another question, but is there anything you want to add on to that?
No, I don't think you ran down. It's important. It's very complementary to what we've been talking about. No, it's simply, I think that when the king comes, since you mentioned him, I think that like any true personality in history, he will cease with the rubbish of the fake diplomacy. He will say enough. And that word will be heard, its echo will be heard even as far as the furthest corner of Scotland and Ireland. The English, the Scottish, the Welsh, the Irish will hear this as well. So will the French. And I think that so many people today are exhausted of hearing people say what they want to hear without really meaning it. They will see in this man, who will be in fact called to fulfill the mission to put order, to restore Christianity in the countries they originally emerged from, and to restore the church, including the Rome, with a new quote unquote, as Marie used to say it, a pope that will be angelical. That his points of view, his way of talking, will be refreshing like crystal water to a people that is profoundly thirsty of truth and of rehabilitation, of a culture, of a history, of a past that is no longer protected or cherished. I couldn't agree with you more, and I would be willing to bet anything that easily 85% at least of your countrymen, beginning with the Scots and followed surely enough with the English and the other members of the United Kingdom, the Welsh and the Irish, I would be willing to bet that they share this level of exasperation, and they will welcome in the depths of their heart this echo that will resound ever so loudly from the French king, which will say enough. And when he will put a feast on the table, and there will be a rise of men who will want freedom, there will be such a scream for freedom and for the rehabilitation of their own identity and the memories of the past like it's never been heard before. And then the war will be a plague that will need to be eliminated. The Islamic, the Muslims, are doing exactly that in their home nations. Do you think they would permit ever a cathedral to be built in Saudi Arabia, in Yemen, Oman, Algeria, Morocco, Tunisia, Libya? They think we are idiots. They think that we deserve what they want, and they have one ambition: to make a race with the other Arabic nations to make caliphates of our homelands. This will not happen. And there will be an alliance of nations, beginning with France, Spain, England, surely enough, and other nations. But there's going to be an abscess that needs to burst first. And this abscess, and it splits my heart in half, will be the war, which will not be able to be stopped, I regret to say. That's my opinion. And which meets totally with yours, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I just hope, like, for us who are aware of it and have been sounding the alarm these past couple of years, especially, and trying to explain it as logically and clearly as possible, that everything happening right now is prophecy unfolding. And even the atheists with a real rational mind must look at all the evidence and see what's happened and see what's happening now and look for what's coming next based on what they're writing and what they're hearing and realizing that there's something here. And that's what I've always tried to come across with, rationally looking at it. And we go where the evidence leads, as it always says. And right now, there's nothing being changed. And what I'm always finding fascinating is they're all coming together at the same time. You're starting to see those pieces of the jigsaw coming. But we individually, I mean, I don't know what God has in store for me, if I'm going to see it through, or if I go to bed tonight, will I see tomorrow? I don't know. But I'd like to think He has use for me yet. I want to make sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Why are we telling the world to prepare? Are we preparing ourselves? Refuges. I'm living in England right now, which again, prophecy wise, makes me say, right, natural instinct is to get out of here. Where do I go so it's safe? Or supernatural faith, do I stay? Because I do see a pattern of things that has made it providentially with God for me to be here right now. I've got my purple scapulas, I've got some food and water. Does God want me to hear? Does He want me to flee? I don't know. But if we had
Seems
to
to me
flee, sorry?
your role is clear. Forgive me, I interrupted you. I beg your pardon, but I wanted to tell you that I'm no one to say. I have no authority. But this is from first your friend, and from an observer that lives ever so far from you. But it appears to me that first of all, your channel is growing uh, relatively fast, moderately fast in popularity. And I think the time will come when your mission given to you by heaven will be to warn already those who are already subscribers who watch you frequently, not just in your country, mostly in your country, but you are being watched from Canada, in Canada, in the United States. You are gaining a lot of popularity. But your job, I think, will be, when the time comes, to echo the truth to your countrymen. Then you will probably be interrupted for a while because there will be no more further means of telecommunication, at least not for a
Mm-hmm.
long time. And then when the reconstruction will be called for, when all this will be over, England will be hit very, very severely. So will France, so will most of Europe, so will the world. But when the reconstruction will begin, you will be remembered, okay, and you will be calling your fellow men to participate. They will look into you for a source of news and to source us what to do in relations to our faith. I think your task, your mission, your future is well established. I'm no one to say. I don't have the authority to tell you, but it appears to me it is a realistic foresight for you, and it is noble, I think, on your part to wonder. It shows humility. And another thing I observed about you, and that is one of the things that intrigued me about you since day one, since we've known each other, and which I admire a great deal. You remain very cold-headed, and you observe from afar, silently. You observe, and you analyze quickly, and you reach the right conclusion. And I think you use moderation, you use intellect, you calculate, you add one and one, and always reach to the answer of being two. And I think that is your main asset. If you permit me, I interrupted you to tell you this because perhaps you don't hear this enough, but it is my sincere opinion, and I wanted your viewers to know that as well.
No, thank you very much. Yes, well, in terms of the growth of the channel, I definitely saw the exception in it last year. It really took off. This year, it seems to be quieter. And I've noticed that amongst a lot of channels, including those that have got much more subscribers than me, but it tends to be the same audience watching us. The views may kind of be the same, but I missed out on the big opportunity during the pandemic because that's when everyone was watching. And all along, that several years before it, this is what I was wanting to do. Before most of those big channels were established, I already wanted to do what we're doing right now with all the prophecies, the apparitions. So that's my own problem, my own fault for focusing out of focus and back again. Haven't done a video in the last few weeks. I just go through these cycles. But at the same time, I do sense since the summer there's like an invitation from the Lord. I think if you have to be docile to the Holy Spirit and listen, the best way is the silence, and to have the silence on the hills at Garabandal again, as I did, and to really sit and think how much screen time, how much editing, how much chasing this and chasing that. Where's the contemplative prayer life? Where's the love for adoration? Where is living the life of grace and all that it accompanies? And I want that to be at the heart, which might come as a surprise 50 minutes later in this video, but that is always where it is. And sometimes I just feel I need the break from it all because it's not easy stuff to look at or talk about. And I appreciate people in their comments saying that as well. But at the same time, it's reality before our eyes, you could safely say now. And if people want to put their heads in the sand, that's up to them. But my thought is, right, do I stay? Should I go? Your book covers a lot of geographical areas where Russia would be coming over Europe. But you mentioned before the recording the centre of Brittany, Marie Julie Jeheni speaks about as being safe. What could you tell us quickly about that?
Yes. Well, for your viewers, I invited you to consider it. Marie-Julie Jahini stated that in the course of the war, once Russia, and she explained that the time would come during the crisis within the Vatican, within the Catholic Church, there will be a great deal of revolts in European nations, beginning with France, followed by England, Germany, Italy, and Spain. So there will be a war, a conventional and possibly thermonuclear war, but with tactical weapons, not intercontinental, that will see Western Europe, Northern Europe, and Southern Europe invaded through an alliance of Russian forces and Muslim Mediterranean countries. Once the Russians reach the Rhine River, Poland, Germany, Denmark, Holland, Belgium, Switzerland, Czechoslovakia, and Austria and northern Italy are being invaded, the Muslims will, according to Marie-Julie Jeheni, attack and invade Greece, southern Italy, Sardinia, Corsica, southern France, Costa del Sol in Spain, and Andalusia in southern Spain. Marie-Julie Jeheni stated that of all the places, quote unquote, in the universe, the safest refuge of all will be the region of central Brittany, and also the region just below south of Brittany, Vendée, which was a tremendous region of Catholics during the revolutions, continuing to fight for the king, the royal family, against the Republicans, the Bluecoats, as they used to call them. Well, Brittany is not ever so far from England, maybe 1 hour most, depending on the means of transportation you decide to use to get there. But it is important for your viewers to know that if they need to ever seek refuge from war, from pestilence, from whatever it is, do not go in northern Brittany. For Marie-Julie Jeheni said, northern Brittany will be hit hard with the propagation of a particular disease. No, but go to central Brittany. It's a very large region of France, and she even stated that the Virgin Mary told her that Brittany will be like a huge, massive oak tree filled with branches, and that birds from all the four cardinal directions of the compass will come to seek refuge in its feuillage, in its branches, in the safety of its shadow. So do consider it, to all of you. Also, one thing that is of the utmost importance: when this event will come, everything will go very, very quickly. The amount of time, according to Marie-Julie Jeheni, by the time the Russians cross the Rhine River, reach Nantes after invading and taking over Orléans, and the time they are pushed back outside of France by the great monarch, in an alliance with the King of Spain, there will be less than a year will have passed, or about a year and 1 or 2 months. So it will be very, very quickly. So you'll have, and there will be roads. Marie-Julie Jeheni showed on a map the roads that will be in France most used from the people of the eastern part of France all the way to Brittany and Vendée. There will be surely a lot of Englishmen, Scots, Welsh, Irish, who will likewise come to seek refuge with their families in central Brittany. Consider it for your own well-being. But also one thing that is always being asked: to maintain a very cold head, and not to abandon oneself to the temptation of anguish and fear. I know it's easier said than not in view of the gravity of what we are being discussing right now. But nonetheless, she said, very much like Father Michel Rodrigue, by the way, which is remarkable, that falling into the temptation of anguish and fear is a show of lack of faith. And it is anguish and fear. Those are two emotions that are inspired by the enemy of God. Father Michel used to say exactly the same thing. I think it's wise. I think that we are all at our best and strongest when we keep our wits about ourselves. So I hope that, again, I hope that answer is satisfactory, mon
Yeah.
ami.
I have been seriously considering it because I do at times feel paranoid being in this country for either Russia or what's happening internally. I never felt that in my life in Scotland, but even now, Scotland will be a better target with Russia based on where military bases are. RAF Lossiemouth up in the north, Faz Lane with the nuclear submarines, and other places. In fact, that's part of the rhetoric this past week. Some online paper published the top 23 sites Russia would probably hit. Glasgow was at the top of the list.
Are you serious? Really?
Yeah, because of Rolls Royce and or I think the microchips for the missiles are quite a lot made in Glasgow and things like that. So a lot of
Oh,
areas we wouldn't normally know about, but it's military based. Um, but I was in Garabandal in July, and I'm thinking, what's mentioned about northern Spain being attacked or anything? Plus, Garabandal's in the mountains. It's an area in history where Islam never reached, thanks to Our Lady of Covadonga nearby. And plus
mm.
everything prophesied of Garabandal. I mean, for the 6 times at least I've been to Medjugorje, I, Garabandal, a place of refuge, seems to be sticking out for me a bit more right now, northern Spain. But we've got
Oh,
the
it's
scapulas, the houses of refuge. What's for us won't go by us, maybe, if we trust in the Lord, you know. But we're reaching the hour anyway, Mornamy. Thanks for taking the time, and I'm sorry for everyone who's watching this just before Christmas. All the more reason to have a
yeah.
wonderful Christmas.
Merry Christmas to
Plenty of French cognac, Scotch whiskey, and give a salute to all that's happening. Who cares? Be merry.
Well, no, the gift is a message of hope. We know that everything will end up well at the end, but it will be at a great cost. And everyone has received an invitation from heaven through you, through your channel, to prepare and to be ready.
Wonderful, Monomy. Well, I'm wishing you, your wife, your children, all your family, friends, a happy and holy, blessed Christmas, and all the best for the new year.
And to you, laddie, and to you and your lovely wife, and to all of your families, and to your viewers, my warmest respects, my best feelings of friendship, and as we say in my country, union prière, union in prayer, everyone, in particularly at midnight mass.
Amen. Thanks everyone for watching. Remember, you'll find more of Xavier with Monique on their own channel, Oak Crook Xavier Media. And don't forget to give us the thumbs up, like and subscribe, share the video, do your part to cast the nets. And we hope to see you back again very, very soon. Until then, take care as always. God bless and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Joyeux Noël.